Let's start there with these sanctions. They really haven't worked in the past. The DPRK has managed to withstand them. So as a device, tightening them, strengthening them, imposing even more, what does that do?
I think there is scope, though, for tightening sanctions, and particularly at the international level. Of course, the U.S. can have its own unilateral sanctions in addition, and is planning to have secondary sanctions on Chinese entities too, which could cast a chill in U.S.-China relations on peninsula issues. But we have to be very clear about the fact that North Korea is not so exposed internationally that it is going to be damaged by sanctions. Sanctions can go that far and no further. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think sanctions hurt the process of actually trying to resolve the situation.
And that's what my next question was going to be. Doesn't this isolate the DPRK even further and kind of get them off in a corner? I mean, does that really get somebody to the bargaining table?
It absolutely doesn't. Kim Jong-un will not be chastened by sanctions or by a show of force, and he is not going to present himself to the diplomatic table. There needs to be an avenue open for diplomacy. And frankly, I would suggest actually the big game changer on the Korean Peninsula could be if the North Korean economy actually gets going. Then Kim Jong-un has something to consolidate, and it could be a basis to ease actually some of those tensions. The fact of the matter is that he has made progress on this front in the last couple of years. And so North Korea is not just only that basket case that people envision it to be. There is a potential that the place could get itself going, and that could be a game changer in terms of ameliorating tensions.
And that is a good thing, you see it as?
Oh, I absolutely see it as a good thing for two reasons. One, it gives him an incentive not to do his ballistic fanfare and his missile tests, etc., and consolidate and consolidate his economic security. It also creates an avenue where you do begin to have some leverage over him because he does get internationally engaged. But the fact is, just like Vietnam managed to, in the late 1980s and early 1990s, had an economic reform program and gradually integrated into international society, we would hope that Kim also does that, but that has to be on the basis of him following international UN Security Council resolutions and hopefully treating his people better, which I think he has an interest in.
Yeah, you know, Wu Dawei going to Japan, China obviously engaging on this. We saw these diplomats from the ROK, Japan, the United States talking. That's 3 or 4 parties. It's not the 6-party talks. How do you get a 6-party talks going? Or you don't really even need 6, I guess. 5 would be a good start, though. You do need the DPRK at the table. How do you get all of that going?
You get DPRK, perhaps not right now when the tensions are so high, but we will have a South Korean president who is going to be from the pro-rapprochement side. Perhaps at some point of time, when the tensions are low, we can start rebuild a process where people can start coming back to the diplomatic table and have modest arrangements at that front, which could be a jumping-off process for something deeper. But again, that avenue needs to be left open for Kim. He has pretty good deterrent capability, so he is not going to be just dragged to the diplomatic table against his will. And he has shown again with Wu Dawei, Mr. Wu was not able to go to China. 5 days he cooled his heels in South Korea. So there are limits to Chinese influence, but I would also say, contrarily, Xi Jinping had a great meeting with President Trump in Mar-a-Lago, and we have seen signs of gasoline shortages in Pyongyang right now, and Chinese state media and state-affiliated media talking that if preemptive strikes were to happen, but U.S. does not cross the 30th parallel, China can take a more standoff attitude. So it gets Kim thinking twice as to how China might react in these circumstances. So a lot of skirmishing is happening under beneath the radar. And hopefully, once the tension's passed, all these can come to fruition in a good way.
Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Everybody wants that, I believe. Sourabh Gupta, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.